This episode is brought to you by Keeley Electronics. Is that the name of the company, Keeley Electronics?
Their website is robertkeeley.com.
I think I've seen them go by Keeley Electronics before.
It's probably what they go by.
Well, anyways, it's brought to you by...
You have the pedal, Ryan. What does it say on the pedal?
It says Compressor Plus. That's their new pedal that's just come out. It's their new version of their compressor pedal. It's got a mix knob added in, which is a new feature. And it's got a switch for the attack and release for humbuckers or singles. And it's just really great. And I did a demo of it, and I think it's one of my favorite compressors I've ever played with. Oh, another thing. Their compressor used to be like $200 or something like that.
Yeah.
$130.
Dang.
$129.99 technically. They dropped $70 off of their compressor price, and they improved it. Like, that's nuts. It's going to come out July 5th. So if you're shopping for a compressor at all, I really recommend it. I actually really like this compressor. I'm not a big compressor guy, but it just feels really natural to play with.
It sounds like the starting price on that pedal could be just right for the Wheel of Pedals 3.0.
Hey, yeah, we're talking about adjusting some things with the Wheel of Pedals to get it going again, which may or might not happen by the time this episode airs. So thanks a lot, Steve.
Spoilers.
All right, this episode is also brought to you by Walrus Audio. I got their name right. I know that for sure. They just came out with the another new version pedal from a company. They came out with the Iron Horse version 2. They just went in under the hood and tweaked the knob parameters a bit to really help it out. I'd always heard that the volume knob was really touchy, really hard to find unity gain on the original Iron Horse. So they smoothed that out really nice, and it feels just fine now. I have no problem dialing in the volume on the new Iron Horse. They also added more high end to the tone range, and I think they said they smoothed out the distortion range, made it better for low gain stuff.
Yeah, they made it so you had a little more access on the low end.
Yeah, it gets very low gain, so that's for sure.
So you can use it. Well, and that's a classic setting for this style of pedal, LM308 circuit.
It's basically a rat style like clipping section. It sounds like a rat dirt, but then the tone stack is completely different than a rat. Like, it's not that hard filtering that you get with a classic rat. So it kind of lets you use it more like a standard distortion pedal, I guess you'd say.
Sure.
More in the tone stack is more in the realm of, this is going to not be accurate, but like your DS1s or like a normal like dirt pedal where it's like dark on one side and bright on the other, where a standard rat pedal is like this filter sweep.
Right.
That's really weird, but then works for rats in a certain way. But it's really nice to have the rat style dirt with a more conventional style tone stack for sure. I've really been liking it. I've been using it a lot for all sorts of playing. I used it for a speaker shootout demo today. It sounded great. Really great. All right, this episode is also brought to you by sinusoidcables.com.
Yeah, they make cables and frowns.
No, Steve.
The frowns are on the faces of your enemies when you crush them with your incredible tone.
Okay, that works. Well, if you're having a battle of the bands, the other bands are going to frown when they hear your super good tone coming through your sinusoid cables, right? Or when they see how cool your cables look, and they look at their cables and like, my cables look stupid. And
in hindsight, this pitch would have been a lot better if we would have said it makes their enemies smile because it like makes them their friends.
Oh yeah, that's
like
a good pitch.
It converts your enemies to friends.
All right, Sinusoid Cables, they make cables and smiles. Thanks for sponsoring the episode. Hey, this is Ryan.
And this is Steve, and you're listening to 60 Cycle Hum, the guitar buying, selling, trading, fixing, modding, breaking, reviewing, playing podcast.
You did it, Steve.
I did it.
Have you been practicing?
No.
It just flowed out of you this time. What's new, Steve?
I don't have much new.
I know, I was just being polite.
I don't know, like, I'm still trying to figure out. So, oh man, so
here it comes, something new.
So Guitar Nerds, they started doing this thing. I don't know where it is, but I heard them talking about it called the Joe Branton Ranton, or the Joe Branton Ranton.
Yeah.
And it made me, and we talked about it before, like
Well, isn't that part of their Patreon content?
I think it's part
like
of their Patreon content, yeah. But we had talked about doing a mini series a while ago where I would just like do like 5-minute mini-sodes where I would just like complain about something in pop culture.
You are our Joe Branton, so it would be similar to that.
And what I realized is, so now one, they've beaten us to the punch. And two, the perfect the perfect name for that segment would be Steve's Peeves.
Steve's Peeves. Oh man, with a name like that, I think you should do it.
So the thing is I don't know, like I've been throwing this idea around with my coworkers, like they just have like a punchable pop artist segment.
Oh my gosh.
And my coworkers are like, "Oh my gosh, if you do that, like you need to let me come on with you." I was like, it's not supposed to be that long.
Yeah. Or are you gonna say names of people who you think are punchable
and why?
And why they're punchable?
Why?
Okay,
why they're punchable? I mean,
because they look like they have a soft face.
Some of them are self-explanatory. Is that what makes a person's face punchable?
Yeah, if it looks nice and soft, like it'll just take your hand really well.
Because there's some people that I think have a punchable face that, I mean, I'd probably break my hand on their face, but I still want to punch them.
Well, you're looking for you're either looking for like the soft face to really catch your hand in a satisfying way, or it's like food. You either want food to be soft or you want it to be crunchy. You're looking for that crunchy face. You don't want something in between where it's just kind of like gristle.
Right.
You want the crunch or you want the soft, creamy, contact with your punch.
So what's new with you, Ryan?
Well, I bought another amp, Steve.
Good Lord.
I keep buying amps. That was part of my my quest for the years to explore amplifiers and everything having to do with them. I was on the old Craigslist, just looking around.
Yeah.
Not planning on buying anything. And one of those old Ibanez TSA 15H just popped up. One of those Ibanez amps with a built-in tube screamer. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at it. I was like, that's, I think those amps are dumb. It's dumb to have a tube screamer built into an amp. Like,
it is.
Who cares? Like, because like my thinking has always been like, everyone wants a different kind of tube screamer.
Right.
Why would you want a dedicated tube screamer built into an amp that you can't change?
Well, all you have to do is take the tube screamer circuit out and replace it with another effect.
Oh, it's so easy. But then as I was sitting there looking at it, thinking all the bad things I usually think about that amp, I had a realization. I realized that Ibanez probably designed that amp to work optimally well with a pedal pushing it, with a tube screamer pushing it. And then I had the thought, if it is built to be an amp that takes a tube screamer super well, I bet it takes all kinds of pedals really well. It's probably a secret pedal platform amp. And I should go check this out. And the price was right. The guy was asking $220 for it. Mm-hmm. But he didn't say no. He didn't say no low offers or anything like that. He just said no crazy offers on it.
Right.
So I was trying to find low ground with him, and he just kept coming back with like, no, thank you. And eventually he was just like, $220 is really all I'm taking for it. It's like no haggling at all.
Oh, man.
Okay.
Hater.
Okay, I'll come get it. Because it was a fair price. Like, there were ones on eBay that went for like $175 or whatever.
Right.
But then you figure once you get past shipping.
Yeah.
And, who knows if it'll survive shipping or if the tubes will survive shipping. Like, $220 was totally fair. And I didn't feel bad spending that on it. I'm sure I could flip close to that to get most of my money back in the future.
Probably.
If I wanted to sell it, which I don't. I think I really, really like this amp.
Cool.
Nice response, Steve.
Cool.
Okay.
From an aesthetics perspective, I mean, I really like the way those amps look. Like, I always thought the green on cream looked really good.
Yeah, I really like the white Tolex on it. It's really. I'm thinking about changing the knobs though. It's got these black knobs on the green.
Aren't they just like classic-y? They're just classic knobs.
They're like MXR knobs, I was thinking about swapping out for white knobs or for like a weird color knob or something like that.
Problem with white is you'd really have to like match it, otherwise it's going to look like your Stratocaster.
I have no problem with that. But the reason I wanted to swap the knobs out is because where I put it off stage at church is really dark, and I couldn't see the knobs when I was trying to dial it in the other day.
Glow in the dark knobs, dude.
Glow in the dark knobs would be cool on it. That'd be really cool. So yeah, I'm really loving this amp. I think it sounds great. I don't use the tube screamer side of it like at all, all. But running a board into it is kind of like this interesting hybrid. It sits kind of in between like my Princeton and my PV Classic 50 of kind of being like pretty flat sounding, but then when you crank it, it's got like a nice compressed like PV thing going on.
Do you run it at 5 or 15?
I run it at 15. I forgot to run it on 5 when I did the demo of it the other day, which I super regret. So I need to do a demo comparing that. But the 5-watt setting, I'm sure a lot of people would prefer it, but because I'm using it as a pedal platform, I prefer the 15 because the 5-watt setting just gets a little bit like muddier.
Right.
And a little bit like woofier, if that makes sense. But it still sounds good. Sounds really good. Like I think if you're hitting it with the tube screamer, the 5-watt setting makes sense.
Yeah, generally, like because the amp that I have is supposed to be a 15.4, and the 15 is a very like Fendery, but the 4 is, I mean, you run out of room pretty fast. And
the 5 still doesn't drive that much.
That's
when you
interesting
crank it.
because mine like at the level where I would. Like on mine, it definitely drives it on the 4-watt. That's what it's a custom.
This is easily the cleanest low watt amp I've ever played with. Like it barely gets dirt on it with it cranked all the way up. Like it stays clean for a long time, which is great for a pedal platform amp. Like it's really great. I'm stoked on it. But it's still like you turn it up and you get tube compression. It just pushes into drive super late. Which I'm sure a lot of people probably hear that and like, oh, why would I want that? I want an amp that pushes to drive easily.
Now, I wonder if that's a circuit thing, or if I wonder if you could swap out whatever the tubes are in it for something that
is a little hotter,
is rated differently, is a little hotter, and get something that would drive more easily.
Probably. I mean, this thing doesn't have a crazy like tube requirement. I think there's like four tubes in there.
Yeah,
it's basically a 3-knob amp. I say basically, it actually is a 3-knob amp, which is similar to the Princeton minus the tremolo and reverb controls. So super simple controls, pretty easy to dial in. I'm stoked on it.
So now you got the Ibanez, you have the Boss Katana. You still have the AC-15?
I still have the AC-15. I'm thinking about putting it on the market soon, though.
The MV-50 is gone.
Yeah. The GT40
is gone.
Both of those were returned. I've got the Princeton, and I've got 2 acoustics over here now, the acoustic control heads.
Oh, you finally got the other one back, huh?
I got the other one back.
Does it work?
I haven't plugged it in yet.
Oh, my God.
I just found out that my band is playing Tiki Oasis in August, though.
So. Is that the where's that at?
It's at the big hotel down in Mission Valley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it booked out like in 2 hours first day this year.
Oh, wow.
So it's going to be crazy one this year. So yeah, I'll use the amp for that probably.
Cool.
I was thinking about using the Katana though, because it'll be in a hotel room. It'll be like a hotel room party, and the Katana could probably kick it.
And it's lightweight, so you can get it in and out real quick.
Exactly. And then I can put the guitar on my back in that new case I got, the mono case. I haven't talked about that on the show because we took a week off.
We took a week off for
Cowerfest
last week.
All right. Speaking of which, let's get into the regular show.
Yeah, and
then we'll tackle Cowerfest as a topic.
Yeah.
You want to do housekeeping?
First up, we got some housekeeping. This is thanks to Joe Hansen.
Yeah, big thanks.
Who joined our pledgers at the $5 level, which means he is getting a shirt and some stickers
and a patch.
And I'm working on that hopefully soon.
You think he'll ship stuff on Saturday?
You mean tomorrow?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, because we got that one-day event tomorrow.
That's true.
So it kind of depends on how early
your day goes.
Hopefully I'll get it out pretty quick, though. Brain.
You can do it, Steve. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
I know.
So Joe's supporting at the best friends level, which is the $5 level. He gets merch when we get it. And he also is just a really cool dude for supporting us. I don't know where I'm going with that.
We also have discount codes from Sinusoid now for the inner circle and for the best friends level.
I need to send him that code.
Yeah.
So there's that. If you want to know more about supporting the show, head on over to 60cyclehumcast.com and there's a thing about supporting the show.
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
You're not a dummy. You listen to us.
Yeah, you're a smart guy.
Speaking of the website, we get these emails from SEO, like people who purport to be SEO.
Right.
And which is search engine optimization people. And the first thing that blows my mind is like the last one we got, the guy's emailing from a Gmail address with like gibberish. I mean, it was his name, but it was like very like, this is the email I made for myself when I was like 13 years old.
Right.
Vibe to the name.
Email spammer 13 at yahoo.com.
No, it was like it started with Psy.
Okay.
Which just made me think like, oh, this guy watched a lot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh my gosh.
And the thing that's crazy to me about these hits that we get for SEO people is I'm just like, I know they're just like hitting everything.
Oh, sure.
But they say like, oh, if you email me, I'll send you more information about how I found you. Like, I'm not just like hitting you up randomly. Like, I actually already did the work. And I'm just like,
how did you find me?
I know. No, I'm looking at it, and maybe this is the wrong way to look at it. Maybe it's just where we're at right now. Our website's an aggregator.
Yeah.
It has some useful information. It's got quick reference so we can send links to people. But basically, there's just a thing that posts our latest Instagram photos, and then I usually, for like mainline podcast episodes, I'll post those on there. But
it basically exists so that people who want to market through the show can find our marketing information.
But it's just kind of funny because it's like, oh, you should spend all this money so people can find your website. I'm like, there's nothing there.
Yeah, it's like it's not that kind of website, you know.
Anyway, just a mini rant, I guess, before I get into this thing, which
Steve
is our
Peeves.
real first thing. This is a Gibson Epiphone Rivera. They're asking $500. I posted this.
Well, when you posted this on Facebook, you had one question, Steve, and I feel like I want you to tackle it and answer it. Your question was, why?
Why? Yeah, so this says, great sounding and looking guitar, has banded neck and body, fretboard, and mother pearl inlay. So the reason I asked the question why is because on this guitar, the tailpiece has been removed.
Uh-huh.
And
normally like a Tune-o-matic tailpiece.
Tune-o-matic. The holes are still there. I mean, you can see them.
Right.
And it's just been replaced. Oh, I just realized the knob is missing too. Jeez.
Oh, yeah. How tacky.
And anyway, so the tailpiece has been replaced with a floating tailpiece.
It's one of those trapeze.
Yeah, it's a trapeze style tailpiece. Now, the funny thing is I posted this and everyone was like, yeah, why? It's not a Riviera. It's a Sheraton. Which, in hindsight, like that was the other thing. I was like, I've never seen I was trying to find like pictures of Rivieras, and I actually did find a couple that they made. Like I think they made like a 1966 Riviera, blah 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 reissue that did have a stop tail, but it didn't look like this, and I couldn't find any that had a black pick guard, and that's because, again, this is a Sheraton. Yeah. The real giveaway was that it has the flower inlay on the headstock. That like fancy Epiphone flower inlay that I think like the Sheratons have it. The Emperors have it. There's a couple other ones, but the Rivieras, all the Rivieras I could find all had the crown. I think it's called the crown inlay. So same as the ES335. And the ES335 and the Angus Young SG.
I don't know, man.
Anyway, but what I was really asking wasn't like, why would you sell this, or why would you even like? It was a genuine. Why would you do this? Like, what's the benefit? Is there a benefit? I guess you have like a softer brake angle now, but I don't see that. That's I guess more. I feel like that's maybe more of a personal preference thing. I just couldn't think of a concrete reason why you would make this aside from you thought it looked cooler.
It's got to be a looks thing. I mean, when you have a longer string behind the bridge saddles, you can get some, sympathetic resonance behind it.
Right.
Like the way you do on like Jazz Masters and stuff like that. And some people might prefer that kind of feel, I guess. But yeah, I don't get the reason why either. But then I'm kind of looking at that bridge, and that looks like an aftermarket bridge to me. There's something kind of funky about it. I'm wondering if they bought like an aftermarket like bridge and tailpiece set.
Oh, maybe.
And they kind of match each other hardware wise. They look like they're kind of like a weird bronze or copper color.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. They don't really like say.
Yeah. But I'm just not a fan
of the detail there.
Of the open holes look too, of where the stop tail used to be. That ruins it, in my opinion. You got to find something to stick in there to cover it.
A lot of guys, of course, like I didn't really think too hard about the price, but a lot of people are like, yeah, why? Why would you even bother trying to sell it at this price? It's at least $100 too expensive.
It is. It really is.
I was like, I mean, I don't know if you say so. That I just didn't look it up. I guess, like, I know, I guess.
There's a lot of whys
used to
here.
seeing these in like the 350 to 450 range, maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, I didn't even care about that.
It's not like this is a irreversible modification, though. I'm betting that trapeze just holds on by the strap button.
Hopefully
there's not too many screws involved down there.
Like on the Eastwood base has that sort of a trapeze thing there, string mount tailpiece. So man, my head.
You could reverse this and put a stop tail in there.
Yeah, but that is like mounted, like it's hard mounted to the body.
Right.
So there would be like 3 or 4 screws down.
And it's missing the knob.
Yeah,
I mean,
what the heck?
This thing should be 350.
It's not even a complete guitar. Missing a knob.
It should be 350 out the door for sure.
Get out right now.
All right, do we want to talk about Cowerfest?
Yeah, tell me about Cowerfest.
About all the fun I had that you didn't have?
I know, dude. So my first bummer was the morning of Cowerfest. I looked up the weather because I was seeing the videos. I was curious, and I saw that it was like 80 degrees.
Oh, it was super nice. It wasn't even 80. It was like 76 or something like that.
Ridiculous because the I went to Cowerfest one year by myself, and then we went together last year. And I think I remember saying last year, like, oh, this isn't as bad as the first year I went. The first year I went, I think when I got there, it was like 97 or 98 degrees.
Yeah.
And then last year, I think it was maybe like 92, 94.
It was hot, but it was like kind of like a dry heat where you were like mentally you thought you could hang with it, but it like exhausted you by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like, this was a very comfortable, like mid 70s sort of thing going on. I flew up there, and then I got to pal around with Andy Kim from Sinusoid Cables. He put me up.
Did you have a car at all?
I did not have a car at all. I flew into Sacramento Airport, and he picked me up with Clifton Worley and hung around the hotel a little bit, had continental breakfast at the hotel, which was very nice. Then we headed over to Cowerfest. And met up. Oh, Phil was there too. Phil was on a walk when I got to the hotel, out doing a Gear Slum recording.
He was on a walk?
He was walking. He walks when he records, Steve. Everyone knows that.
Oh my gosh.
It's classic Phil. So then we drove to Cowerfest, had a great time, hanging out the whole time, all sorts of people showing up. Co and Kevin showed up. A bunch of listeners were there, and like Luke Monday and Tim Bapalent were there. Max Cheech was there. It was awesome. Hanging out, drinking beer, eating food.
Yeah, dude, you were drinking beer, all right.
I was drinking beer for sure.
Well, I actually listened to last week's episode.
So this year we didn't do what we did last year, where we hung around until afterwards and had a big mega podcast. We just grabbed Doug and pulled him aside, and it was me and Phil and Clifton and Doug on the mic and just kind of just chewed the fat for like 15 to 20 minutes or something like that, which was a lot easier, and it made the day a lot shorter. So Cowerfest was great. It's pretty similar to last year. I was still too chicken to enter the raffle. I am not a gambling person.
It's not gambling. It goes to a good cause.
I know, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. That's not how I have fun.
Man.
I'm not a gambling boy. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Steve.
I've been playing this poker game on my phone. I'm just glad it's not real money.
Oh my gosh.
A pair of deuces? Yeah, I'm all in.
I got to play, not play, but I got to hear Tim Marcus's new amp that he's been playing around with. I got to play with some Otis amps, which sound super good. He's moving to Hawaii, apparently.
Wow.
I know, right? Look up Otis amps if you haven't heard of them before. He makes these really cool looking little tube amps that look like, bedroom furniture or like living room furniture. They're really cool. Have this really neat modern look to them. And they sound awesome. Sound really good. Really great tube cranked tone. Got to try a bunch of guitars. See all the new guitars that Doug has laying around. It was just a great time. But where things really went crazy is as the party was winding down, all of a sudden this limousine pulls up. Andy Kim from Sinusoid has got us a limousine. So
oh my gosh.
Andy and I, Kevin, and Phil, we all crawl in this limousine. Oh, and we're all waiting around for the limousine for everyone else.
No Clifton?
Oh, yeah, Clifton was in there too. I'm sorry. So we're all waiting around for everyone to get their act together and get in the limousine. The limo driver sees what's inside the warehouse.
Right.
And he loads out of the limousine holding this travel guitar that he's got. He's like,
oh my gosh.
I'm a guitar player too. So we've got like this guitar playing limo driver, rock and roll limo driver.
Right.
He's got a tie on with the Beatles printed on it.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, this guy's a rock and roll limo driver for sure. So he's totally down with the party and everything that's going on. We climb into the limo, drive away from Cowerfest like a bunch of badasses.
A bunch of dorks in a limo.
Co's got this bottle of clear liquor that was fantastic. Some kind of like super short aged whiskey that he had or something like that. Like I think the bottle said it was aged like 182 hours or something.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like really short age, but it was super smooth and super good and got us all super drunk. We drove to go get ramen.
Right.
We found a ramen place. I'm not going to give all the details because some of it's embarrassing, but we had a really great party time.
I heard. I watched a video of you.
Of me?
Okay.
So after
singing some Backstreet Boys.
After the ramen place, we go back to the hotel, drop stuff off, get kind of like set up, and then go back out into the limo and go to a karaoke place.
Right.
And do karaoke for like 3 or 4 hours or something like that. The whole time, Andy is just like treating us to all this stuff. It's crazy. Andy took like ridiculous care of us for this, like just this trip to go to Cowerfest. This party all the time. It was awesome. So yeah, this episode definitely brought to you by SinusoidCables.com. Andy is a party animal, and it was a real blast off. I do not regret going to Cowerfest at all.
So what was the coolest thing that you got to check out at Cowerfest?
Oh man, coolest thing at Cowerfest. I think the thing that I was saying to Clifton a while back is the best part of any of these events is always the people and hanging out with the community and getting to meet people. Phil and I and who else? Oh, Clifton and shoot, who was drumming? I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Oh,
drummer.
Steven Tijerno.
That's right. Steven was drumming. We all played a set on the little stage out there and just made songs up.
Right.
Like I did. We did a ditty based around like the Jurassic Park theme, and Phil was like freelance, like not freelance, but freestyle, like singing over it, just singing about Jurassic Park. And then we did the Top Gun theme, and then we did the Batman theme because Adam West died that day. I know, right? So that was a real blast, and you know the whole time there's people getting up on the stage and playing, and they're just like super good, super polished, like performance level stuff, and we get up there and just
I've never played at Cowerfest.
Just slopped it out, just like rowdy, sloppy stuff, and that was a blast. Like getting to play, there was some Cower I was playing that had this really neat relic to it, and that was a blast to play Cower for a set. And how do you say what is the best thing at Cowerfest? It's just
That's
all
true.
such,
That's true.
It's all just such a great experience.
Maybe
Drinking
best isn't the right word. I don't know if there. I guess what I'm asking is if there was anything
that like stood out.
that stood out. Like you said, you got to check out Milkman's new amp.
Yeah, it's like a limited run,
which I loved the video where you're like, so Tim, you've said a lot of good things about your product. What would you say is the worst thing about it?
For some reason, I love Tim. Every time I get to hang out with him, whenever I get him on the mic to do some kind of interview, it just goes super stupid. Really quick.
Yeah.
Like I got him on the mic at Winter NAMM, and it was just like
it
was a joke.
That was the dumbest thing ever.
It was a joke. I don't know why I do that. I sabotage it every time with Tim, but he's actually like a really interesting guy who makes really cool stuff and has a lot of fun things to say. I think I just get excited and I sabotage it. Listen, all y'all, it's sabotage.
Yeah.
I think coming away from it,
I can't tell you. I wish you could do a serious interview because some of these ones that you do, I just can't stand it.
Oh man.
I mean, and the thing is like you do it every time, so I feel like you planned it. Rather, I should say, as a forward-thinking person, that I think that you planned it. Not that I feel that you planned it, but I think that you planned it.
Okay.
So I would like you to set this straight because it feels kind of like Watergate.
I'll let you finish.
That's all I know.
Oh, okay.
I can never get past that point.
I feel like I'm in a J.J. Abrams Star Trek movie over here. All this Beastie Boys going on.
Oh, right. I haven't seen the second one, or rather, I haven't seen the third one. I haven't seen.
It's all right. It's on Netflix or Hulu or something.
Is
now.
it?
Yeah,
I've got both of those.
Like, well, go watch it, Steve.
All right, see
it's
you guys.
Right.
Bye.
Steve is walking out the door. He's going to go watch Star Trek right now.
All right, we're back.
We're back. Let's jump on to the next ad.
Yeah, we actually had two of these in the same week, which was kind of crazy. The guitar we're talking about is the Fender limited edition Koa Telecaster.
Oh, it's not two in the same week. I pulled up a Reverb ad as a reference point.
Oh, maybe because I looked this up on Reverb. Then that's why I've seen it.
Because the Craigslist one is the one that was sent to us, and then I pulled up the Reverb one for price comparison.
Yeah, so this is the one on Reverb $700, and it says it's sold.
Yep.
The one on Craigslist is $550, and actually, the reason this came up is Ed Chu found it, and I think he thought it was fake.
Yeah,
or he wasn't
I think
sure
he
what
was
the
saying
deal was.
that he was asking like, isn't Koa something that like comes up on fake guitars all the time?
Right. So the Fender limited edition Koa Telecasters, they were made in 2006. I'm not really going to read the description, but definitely check out the pictures. Especially that Reverb one looks really crazy cool.
Really sharp in those Reverb pictures. I think it's just the photographer did a great job on it.
So this came out the same time as when Fender was doing the Light Ash series of instruments. So they had a Light Ash Stratocaster and a Light Ash Telecaster, and the whole deal is that these Light Ash guitars were super lightweight. So you're talking about like a 6-pound Telecaster.
Yeah.
Kind of a deal. They made these Koa ones around the same time. And
I always thought light ash meant that it was a light color of ash.
No, it was like that these were like ultra light guitars. Yeah.
It just looks really sharp. It's a really good look.
Yeah.
And I know they're imports, but the price is right, man.
So they're made in Korea. Some people thought that I remember seeing reviews where people thought they felt flimsy. The ones that I picked up, I always felt played really well. And these have the Seymour Duncan Alnico Pro 2s for the pickup set, which they just sounded fantastic. I actually think in a lot of ways, this series of guitars kind of paved the road for the classic vibe guitars.
Oh, sure.
Like the idea of making like a classic style Telecaster. And one of the things that's also kind of interesting about these is these have the three saddle brass bridge.
They don't look like they're compensated.
They're not. They're not.
Just your
They're just
standard
the brass barrel.
But you can upgrade those super cheap, or leave them as is. Like I've got the uncompensated ones on my Duosonic, and I love them.
Yeah. So these are. I always thought they were really cool guitars. Both, I think they were like $630 or $700 new.
Yeah.
So
I mean, $550 is a great price for a really good looking Telecaster on that Craigslist ad.
I would say that I think the prices on these have been fairly stable as far as the used market goes.
Comes with the hard case too.
The hard case is a good deal on that Craigslist one for sure.
And it's also got the headstock where it's just the Fender logo. Like just looks super sharp.
So if you ever see one of these on your local Craigslist and you're tele-curious or you're looking for something that's just pretty or whatever, definitely check it out. They're definitely legit as long as, again, like these are Korean guitars, hence the price. But I don't know, I really liked the ones that I tried out. Some of them probably, especially at this point, if they're not being owned by someone who's maintaining them, then they probably need some
love and attention,
like just a setup and everything. But
sure.
If you're buying used, like I feel like you're gonna know that going in.
Yeah. If you got one of these, would you leave it stock or would you do anything to it?
I might be tempted to do, because both of these have the pearloid pickguard.
Yeah.
I might do like some kind of mint.
Totally. That's what I was thinking. Maybe not mint, but like parchment maybe. Or like the flat, like single ply would look really good on this.
I'm not a fan of single ply ever.
I think against a dramatic wood grain like this, a Ko's going to have like a deep like shimmer to it. You put something flat on it and it's going to make it pop even more. That's kind of my opinion anyways.
Okay. I can follow that. But yeah, these are a thing. They only made these apparently for 1 year. That's what the Reverb ad said.
Well, they probably had like just a stock of wood, and they're like, just crank these out until they run out.
But they're a ton of fun, in my opinion.
I mean, for if you can pick these up $500-$600, that's a cheap Telecaster these days, and it's going to be a really playable guitar. It's probably not going to feel as good as an MIA or whatever, but this is going to be a pretty decent playing guitar that looks really freaking sharp, really sharp. And, like as a Fender Telecaster, it's going to take any parts you throw at it. There's aftermarket parts out the wazoo for these things. So if you like the look of that body, you can just fix these things up forever. All right, topic. Let's get into the last topic, if I can find it here. Yeah,
we're going to talk about this. This thing is the electric guitar dying?
There's a couple I can't talk. There's a couple articles that have been floating around all week.
So the one that, it was originally posted in the Washington Post called "Why My Guitar Gently Weeps." And actually the article that you took a picture of is talking about that.
It references
It's a blogger talking about that article.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So just to jump to the chase, I'll try to find a link to the original Washington Post article as well as this response to put in the show notes. But the gist of it is, basically there was the 80s and everyone thought electric guitar was going to go away because of Duran Duran and Flock of Seagulls.
Yeah.
And all these hair bands.
Everyone who was like in a punk band in the 70s thought that was the last dying gasp of rock and roll.
And then electric guitar survived, and then the 90s rap happened. But electric guitar survived, but now we're in another age of synthesizers and
we're in an age of computers now. It's beyond synthesizers. It's all laptops.
So the quote that this guy puts in here is it's from the Washington Post, and it says, in the past decade, electric guitar sales have plummeted from about 1.5 million sold annually to just over 1 million. That doesn't really sound that bad to me. I don't know.
Well, it's a 30-something% loss.
That's true. The two biggest companies which are Gibson and Fender, are in debt. PRS just had to cut staff. and expand production of cheaper guitars. Moody's downgraded Guitar Center as it faces $1.6 billion in debt. But it's like, yeah, but it's Guitar Center.
Yeah, Guitar Center's garbage. That's why they're in
but,
debt.
And at Sweetwater.com, a brand new interest-free Fender can be had for as little as $8 a month. But
that argument made no sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense because $8 a month, if they put it on like a 72-month plan, is still a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, like there's radio commercials like saying that I can lease a Kia for $150 a month or something like that. Doesn't mean that cars are going away.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all going to be carless in 2 years.
If it was a 60-month loan, that's $480.
I mean, you could apply that logic to anything and be like, oh, if you can get this for this much a month. Yeah, but how long am I paying?
Hey, you know what? You can support this podcast for $8 a month.
Yeah, you can do that for sure.
Anyway,
you do that. We'll send you stuff.
Yeah. What worries George Gruen of the Gruen's Guitars is not simply that profits are down, but the why. He says when he opened his store 46 years ago, everyone wanted to be a guitar god, inspired by the men who roamed the concert stage: Clapton, Beck, Jimi Hendrix, Santana, Jimmy Page. Now those boomers are retiring, downsizing, and adjusting to fixed incomes. They're looking to shed, not add to their collection, and the younger generation isn't stepping in to replace them. Gruen knows why. What we need is guitar heroes, he says. And then the article kind of goes on and says, we're light on the kind of players that make kids want to pick up guitars. Instead, rappers, DJs, performers, people who program beats, and basically the demographics are shifting is the argument. And then the article cuts off.
Right.
So I don't know what the rest of his argument is, but I
mean, that's the gist of it. That's the gist of it. We don't need to worry about the fine details here. What are we, a news podcast that gets things right?
Right. Well, I mean, it would have been interesting to actually see the whole article, but hey, it's actually the article. The site is called a journal of musicalthings.com.
Yeah, that's the article referencing the Washington Post article.
Oh, okay. But if you hit keep reading on his site,
it
bounces to the Washington Post site.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of weird. He doesn't really super get into it.
I mean, all this is just like...
The Washington Post article is pretty long. I'll just say this. I think there's a deficiency of guitar-oriented music in pop. In pop music, whereas I think the last real heyday of pop music was maybe like the mid 2000s, when you had like Green Day was a crossover act, Fall Out Boy was a crossover act. Like a lot of these pop punk bands were pop.
Right.
They were pop punk. They were traditionally alternative radio guys, but they were getting songs onto like adult mainstream stations, onto are like top 40 stations.
Yeah.
They became top 40 bands. And around the same time, like in the last 10 years or so, Maroon 5 has transitioned from being a pop rock band to being more pop oriented, more programmed. Though James Valentine did recently get a signature guitar from Music Man. So you do I get that. I don't know how much of it is demographic replacement versus I'd buy expensive guitars. If I didn't have skyrocketing healthcare costs.
Oh man. I think that in general, I just think this article is just clickbaity, and I don't think it matters at all that this article exists and people are reacting to it right now. I think people are just out there kind of aggregating it, trying to get website clicks off of it. Here, let me finish.
Sure.
I think there obviously is a slowdown in guitar buying,
right?
And I think the two main culprits are market saturation. Mm-hmm. There's a ton of guitars out there right now, and look at our show. We talk about the used market so much.
Yeah.
The general population is very empowered to buy used things right now. and guitars don't go bad very quickly.
Right.
And then the other side of it is the Guitar Hero kind of aspect. And it's just that young people experience music differently now than they used to. Like it's music just flat out isn't as important as it was when we were young, when our parents were young. Like it used to be, music was this huge like social identifier.
It's true. I mean, that's a really good point.
Now everyone has their own niches. Like no one cares what their friends listens to. It's not like, oh, I hang out with the rock group and those guys over there are the rap group, and those are the pop people over there. Like everyone kind of listens to everything now.
Yeah.
So it's not easy to track down a group of kids and be like, there's our target market.
Yeah. And to go along with that, I mean, I think that's kind of an interesting thing is, I mean, maybe to an extent as electric guitars become more, I don't know if I want to say more accepted.
They're not, they're just mainstream now. There's nothing exciting or dangerous about it.
I guess what I think about is that the classic rags to riches tale, School of Rock, American,
oh my gosh,
pinnacle of American film. The kids in there, like they are like the one kid who plays guitar, like he plays classical guitar,
right?
That's all he knows, and then he gets sent home with like an AC/DC album. And he has to like play it under like the covers or whatever, like so his parents won't find it. And you know the keyboard kid, his homework is to listen to like Genesis, or Yes or whatever, and these different like prog acts. And you know, I think about that idea, and it's really goofy in the movie, but you do hear those stories about like, oh yeah, like you know, when I was a kid in the 70s, I saved up my money. And I bought Led Zeppelin 4. And that was my first album. And it was the only album I owned for like a year.
And
I listened to it every single day for a year. Like there was that level of obsession. And there was also like, a taboo factor, like you were saying. Like if you were like the metal kid, you listened to Zeppelin in the 70s, you were a metal kid or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, there was a taboo that went along with that. Whereas now, like everything is accessible. We don't have albums. We have albums. It's not things aren't album driven. Things aren't even like ownership driven, because if I want,
all the kids are on Spotify now, and you like, if I want to hear a song these days, I just go on YouTube.
Yeah, it's Spotify, it's YouTube. If I actually want to like give back a little, I guess, like I hear a song on the radio, I find it on SoundCloud. I click the button that says "Take me to iTunes." It takes me to iTunes. I drop $1.30, and I have the one song I want. I don't have to buy an album. I don't have to listen to anything that I don't want to listen to.
Yeah,
you're not my mom. So I think that is interesting, and I don't know, because there have been some very like guitar oriented. There have players.
I think the argument that there aren't guitar celebrities anymore or guitar stars is moot. I don't think that's true. There's, I mean, you know, freaking Imagine Dragons was everywhere.
Oh, they're
like the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Like Black Keys are still around, and like their stuff is everywhere now.
Yeah, Black Keys is a lot of guitar. Arctic Monkeys have had like a few big alternative hits.
There's a ton of guitar out there. There's a guitar showing up in all kinds of music these days. And it's not like Van Halen days. You know?
And like I said, I think some of it is that, like you said, like it's a mainstream thing. It's just part of a sound. So even beyond like, yeah, Black Keys, you hear it in a lot of commercials, but they're still really alt radio. Arctic Monkeys, alt radio. Now Imagine Dragons is everywhere.
Yeah.
But to even go beyond that, like Daft Punk for Random Access Memories brings in Nile Rodgers to do like everything.
Right.
So literally, I had this conversation actually with one of my coworkers yesterday because he was playing. Excuse me. He was playing that album at work, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Nile Rodgers and Pharrell." And my coworker goes like, "Yeah, they." I was like, "You know, this is a really interesting thing that Daft Punk did, and like bringing this in." And I think that's what keeps them relevant. Is Daft Punk is really good at picking their collaborators.
Oh, yeah.
When they want a collaborator, like they pick the right ones. And my coworker goes like, yeah, he's like, well, you know, like Daft Punk has always said they were like heavily influenced by like 70s funk and disco. So what did they do? They literally went out and found the two funkiest people they could find.
Yeah.
Nile Rodgers and Pharrell. Like Pharrell's a phenomenal hip hop R&B producer, and Nile Rodgers, who's like one of the greatest guitar players of all time, particularly in the funk rock genre, you know. So that worked for them. But the thing is like, I think if you're listening to Daft Punk as an average listener, I don't know if you're necessarily processing that and going like, oh yeah, that guitar is like, you're not really understanding what's special about it.
Sure.
And there's nothing about the music itself that's explicitly countercultural.
Sure.
I mean, maybe like from a lyrical standpoint,
I mean, like
you could have an interesting conversation.
I started learning guitar because I saw a friend play "Smells Like Teen Spirit,"
right?
And there's like that was the song that was like the counterculture, like this is our music, and parents don't get it kind of thing. When I was a teenager, like I could not tell you what that song would be now. What is the song now that like, if you showed a teenager that you could play it on guitar, that they would be like, "Oh shoot, I got to learn how to play guitar."
Well, and I think that is I think that's kind of an interesting kind of angle. I think I talked about this a few episodes ago, but we brought in an electric. If I didn't, I'll just to reiterate. A few weeks ago, we brought in one of the kids in the church I work for was like, "Oh, I want electric guitar. Like my friend plays electric guitar. I'm going to bring him." And of course, what does he play? And then he goes like, "Oh, I told our director that I would send her a video of my buddy playing guitar." I was like, "All right, whatever." So he's like, "All right, man, play a song." And so what's he play? He plays "Smell Like Teen Spirit."
Right.
The kid's 13 years old, maybe.
Yeah,
13, 14 years old.
That song's 25 years old now.
And so that is a thing, is like, you know, kids who are into, and then later I think he started playing like Thunderstruck.
Right.
So it's like these kids who do want to play guitar, who think guitar's cool, their perspective is still the same perspective that was prevalent in like rock guitar 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think if you want to look for like guitar oriented music, probably the most guitar oriented music right now, aside from like just metal, or like hard rock, it's like country, but there's not really like an in between. There isn't, you know,
like I remember watching. What's the guitar riff of the last 5 years? Like, what's the guitar riff? You know, like I can't think of anything.
I mean, I know the guitar riffs that stick out in my head, but
I mean, if this was the 80s, you could name the guitar riff of the month, let alone let alone the decade. And I can't think of what I would consider the guitar riff of the 20.
I mean, I'm thinking of the 80s right now, and I'm thinking of the intro to I guess that was synthesizer though, but I'm thinking of like Jump.
Sure.
Like the intro to Jump is like really, I'm pretty sure that was synthesizer. Maybe it wasn't. I don't know. It sounds like synthesizer to me.
There's guitar in there.
But then like other riffs, I think about like, every Guns N' Roses song.
Yeah, there's, it was super riffy back then. Even in the 90s, there's tons of riffs in music that were like, oh, I got to learn that riff, and that'll get me into starting to play that song. And then there was some riffy stuff in the 2000s with kind of the garage rock revival with like the Hives and the White Stripes and stuff like that. I mean, I guess all there is right now for super popular riff rock is still Black Keys, but that's like a throwback to 10 years ago.
I don't even think the Black Keys are a band anymore.
You don't think so?
I don't know. Dan Auerbach's always like working on a bunch of projects, his own stuff, so I don't know if
Didn't they have a bunch of new stuff like a year or two ago?
Maybe.
I can't remember. I'm super out of the loop.
It's one of those things where like the Black Keys happens and then they stop happening for a while and then they come back again.
Right.
So yeah, no, it's definitely interesting to think about.
I mean, all this stuff is still going on. It's just not in the pop music limelight right now.
The flip side of that too is, and I hate to say it,
it's all moved to gent. Like doom metal and gent. That's where all the guitar is happening right now.
I don't even think it's that. So I watched that video again. We talked about it earlier. I watched the video with Tim Marcus, and Tim Marcus plays. Was Pete at Cowerfest? Pete Jonas?
I don't know. Which one is he?
He's the kid.
He might have been.
He's from Orange County. He looks like he's like 12. He's like a guitar virtuoso. I think he worked. Was he working the JHS booth? No, he's worked the Cower booth before at NAMM as like a demo guy.
I didn't.
He's like a Stoops type of guy.
Gotcha.
Like, he's one of these session guys. So
Tim's a super great player.
So what I was thinking about with that is gosh, man, it's going to get weird for a second. Maybe
get weird on me, Steve.
There are songs out there that have guitar parts into it, and I almost wonder if there are so many session musicians now that do like a specific thing that, I mean, you think about like what makes a good guitar riff. I wonder if there's just not as many guitar riff writers.
I just don't think it's part of what people want to hear in popular music right now.
Well, because I'm thinking about like, so again, referencing like the Tim video. Tim plays like the pickless style that like a lot of guys are playing.
Sure,
where it's like
finger
picking thing, thumb in like two finger or whatever. I don't know if it has a name. But it's like super popular. Like everyone and their mom does it.
They're putting their fingers in the tone.
Right. Mateus does it. Like a lot of these guys where they don't use a pick. They're doing like multi-note. Yeah. Anyway, you hear a lot of that stuff. And I almost wonder if like we've hit a point where like there are so many guys that focus on that. Like just is nobody writing good riffs? Is that why we don't hear good riffs? Or is it like, do we not hear good riffs because nobody's writing them? Or do we not hear good riffs just because nobody wants to hear good riffs?
There's just not a market demand right now.
Because I think about like that kind of guitar. So like, okay, Selena Gomez just put out a new song like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago.
I mean, we all know that, Steve. It's we're all listening to it over and over.
We all are. It's called Bad Liar. It's incredible. But that song is like basically all like it's really super stripped back, very indie acoustic rock guitar sounding. But I don't think anyone's listening to that going like, oh man,
gotta learn this guitar
part. I gotta learn this guitar part. I kind of want to learn that guitar part, but but like just nobody's been like, oh man, that's so blowing my mind, like the way that Sweet Child of Mine, like that riff is like so stupid, like the intro riff, but it's iconic. And so I guess that maybe that's what it's not even that we're missing like guitar heroes, it's that nobody's writing iconic riffs.
Right. Well, it's almost like guitar's grown up.
A lot of songs don't have solos in them anymore.
Yeah, it's like guitar was a hot thing for so long, and people were just like, just getting guitar all over the place. It was on top of the mix. It was running the show, and now it's just become an instrument. It's there in the mix. It's a utility. Mm-hmm. It's making things happen. And, going back to the original topic here is these articles going like, guitar sales are going down. There's no rock stars playing guitar. It's like, it's still being used. Like, as long as there's going to be music, there's going to be people playing guitar. It's not this, guitar was the fidget spinner of the last 50 years.
Right.
And that it's growing up. It's fading into being more of just a musical instrument instead of being the new hula hoop,
So I guess I would maybe summarize and say like I'm looking at it from an angle of like, I guess almost more of a music cultural angle, and you're just looking at it from like a sheer like, I mean,
like pop culture,
but also like I find your take really interesting because basically what you're saying is who cares?
That's what I'm saying. Who cares? Like, there's this whole doom and gloom, and I'm sure it's tough to be in the industry when things are going down.
Yeah.
But then it's like so much of the argument for the article is these bigger companies not being able to make it and saying like, oh, how are all these small companies coming up? It doesn't make any sense. There's going to be saturation. But I was thinking about that. It's like all these small companies put together aren't clearing the amount of product that Fender lost market share of. Like these small companies are, selling, if they're doing really well, thousands of guitars. Where like Fender, Gibson together are selling, hundreds of thousands, if not a million guitars.
Right,
Who knows?
Right.
It's just a market shift. Like these smaller companies can afford to float, and people are more interested in smaller companies more and more.
Yeah, the guitar industry really saw like a rapid expansion, I think, for a couple decades, the 80s and really the 80s and 90s. And now it's I haven't seen the numbers, but I'm just guessing that those were...
There's always going to be people...
There was expansion, and now there's retraction. And so it's going to be one of those things where like... Really, retraction might put a lot of people out of work.
Of course.
But if Fender and Gibson play the angles right, they have the economies of scale to like probably survive it better than anybody else. But the part of that is they got to figure out when's the right moment to fire everybody.
Right.
I think there are no guitar heroes. Why do we have an A&R team? Like, we don't need artist relations.
Right.
There's only one artist. We only need one person to do this job.
But like, you worry, these articles worry like, oh, there's no big rock stars. And then you go and you see, these companies that float on niches.
Right.
They're like, oh, we have like everyone who's into like this certain kind of like bluegrass picking just loves our brand. We've got these two bluegrass pickers who play our brand only, and everyone just like gravitates.
I mean, that's a great point too.
All the Genty stuff, like, oh, we're the company that makes all the Genty guitars, and people really love it. Like, it's all about like hitting these niches, and the bigger companies don't hit those niches as well.
Right. Well, they're just so big that they have to try to hit as many of them as possible. Whereas, legitimately, to throw out a name like Chapman Guitars.
Yeah.
Chapman Guitars, they now make a couple instruments that are a little more conventional looking, but like basically anyone who knows about Chapman Guitars expects them to shred.
Yeah.
And when people say like, oh, I'm looking for a shredder under $1,000, what should I get? Like, Chapman Guitars always gets brought up. They found their niche. They're a relatively new company, and they're making their stuff overseas somewhere, I think. But excuse me. That part, I guess, is neither here nor there. That is an excellent point. I guess the thing that could be an issue is that as the mainstream market gets smaller, you would also expect all the other markets to get smaller. So even some of these like niche survivalists, they're only going to last as long as those markets are strong. And so I guess like in the case of metal, like the change in musical pop culture in the mainstream radio to being more synth driven or being more production driven, production in the, again, like they talked about Ableton, like, so in the production in like the DJ / producer, like the Chainsmokers or whatever sort of EDM, Zed and all these different guys, they do their thing. That's, I guess, kind of that thing. And eventually it even raises other questions of, how long does metal or bluegrass, I guess, maybe to a lesser extent.
Sure, these niche markets.
Bluegrass is so traditional that it might be like a impermeable market. But metal, I think, is one where you could be like, okay, well, EDM only has a minimal influence on metal, only on like industrial metal.
Right.
But I think as you see pop music transition more and more into EDM type or trap or whatever, whatever buzzword electronic thing you want to call it.
It's just techno, guys. That's all this stuff is. It's
like
just techno.
That's going to get into more mainstream metal, I think. So that would be kind of interesting, is like, maybe metal doesn't react as fast, but it eventually will react,
sure.
I think.
I don't think we're ever going to see a metal band that's not guitar heavy, though.
You think it just depends. I mean,
even Jethro Tull had guitar, and that was a flute band.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think about like Doom.
Sure. And they might as well
synthesizer is made for Doom,
but they're also playing like guitars that might as well be basses.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this up and just say that it is what it is, and who cares?
I got a question for you, Ryan.
Yeah.
How much would you let somebody pay you
Let them pay me.
to be a guitar effects expert?
Oh goodness. I feel like I would need to charge, I mean, it depends on who the person is. Like, is it a friend or is this a stranger?
There's a guy in San Diego. This was a while ago, and we couldn't figure out if you found this or if David Chote found this, but someone found this.
Someone local found it. I guessed it might be David Chote.
They're in.
I can't remember.
This ad is from, again, is in San Diego. I'm looking for someone who has expert skills using effects pedals to dial in different guitar tones, e.g. David Gilmour, Eric Johnson, etc. I know tone comes from the fingers, but effects pedals can really make great tones and make practicing more fun. Can afford $25 per hour.
Huh.
I was like semi-interested, because I remember seeing this too and thinking like, I don't know if I want to deal with a person who's willing to pay $25 an hour to be taught how to use guitar pedals.
Now that I'm thinking about this, I should have answered this ad and just had the guy come over to my house and play with all the demo pedals.
There could have been some, but like that. I mean, there's so many things that like weird me out about this. Like maybe that's the guy's game is like, oh yeah, you hit him up. He's like, well, I really only have, this Boss ME30, but if you had some stuff and wanted to show me, that'd be cool. And then you get there and he stabs you and takes your pedals.
I just imagine a scenario where I'm hanging out with this guy. I bring a bunch of pedals to his place or whatever, and we spend like 4 or 5 hours together. And he finds a pedal that he really likes, and he's like, "Oh man, I really like this pedal. How much is this thing? Like, well, you could have bought this thing if I hadn't been sitting here with you 4 hours."
Oh, I really like this DoD 250. Well, you've already spent enough money to buy 3 of them.
Exactly. I don't know. Is this guy actually asking for someone to teach him how to use pedals, or does this guy want like a rental service? Because
no, he says who has looking for someone who has expert skills in using pedals to make guitar tones. So literally, he wants someone to come in and be like, I mean, this is the way I imagine this going down. Is you email him and be like, I'm interested in this. Let me know what kind of equipment you have. And he says, okay, well, I got a Strat and I've got this amp and I've got, these 5 pedals.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, so you've got an overdrive and a reverb and a delay. So like, let's go, like, I'll come over today for an hour and we'll knock out the David Gilmour tone. I'll show you how to like set your overdrive and your amp and whatever to do that. And then and then a week later, he's like, oh, yeah, I've been listening to Seven Nation Army. How do you get that sound? And you're like, oh, I'll come over and I'll bring my Pog and I'll show you how to do that octave down and whatever. Like, that's kind of just the weird. I don't know. Like, I kind of get it.
It's such an open-ended thing. It's hard to know
it's the
how this would turn out.
It's the kind of goofy thing where it's like if you were doing it organically, you could do this all the time for like nothing. Like, someone comes up to you after a church service and is like, oh, hey, man, like, how'd you get that one tone? And you spend like 20 minutes walking through like, well, I use this and this and I do this and da-da-da-da. And it's just like very organic. Like this just feels weird.
It feels really weird and really forced. It feels like an eccentric millionaire sort of thing. But then
I feel like that would be the best case scenario.
I kind of want to see if this ad is still up and hit this guy up and see.
It could be.
I'm betting this guy got deluged with emails from people who have, cool pedal boards and stuff like, oh, let me come over to show you what I got, The problem is if I go over there, I'm just good at making the tones that I like. Like if he wants to hear like a perfect, like Pink Floyd riff tone, and be like, well, I guess we'll just put a big muff into a delay or something.
Right.
And it'll get you kind of there. I don't remember that song perfectly, so. But I don't know, maybe I'd hit him up, talk to him like, hey, maybe he just needs like a general overview of different kinds of pedals. I don't know. Put together a board and be like, hey, here's delay, here's chorus, here's reverb, here's overdrive, distortion and fuzz, wah. There's so many to go through.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't hate this as much as I did when I put the ad into the Google Drive.
Oh, that's too bad.
All right, do we want to wrap this up?
Yeah, let's say thanks to our sponsors.
Keeley, makers of the Compressor Pro. I can't talk. Keeley, makers of the Compressor Plus.
Yeah, check them out at robertkeeley.com or just Google Keeley pedals.
They've made the number one best-selling boutique compressor in the history of boutique compressors, and now they've made it a heck of a lot cheaper, and they made it better. $129. Like, why would you buy any other compressor?
I don't know.
It's $129.
Yeah. All right. This episode's also
Electro Harmonics just came out with a compressor. It's got a stupid name. Everyone says so.
We'll just talk about that later.
Just get the Keeley compressor.
Compressor Plus.
Yeah.
Done.
All
right. This episode's also brought to you by Walrus Audio. We just ran a demo of the Iron Horse version 2. It's an LM308 based distortion pedal, but it's been upgraded for extended range on the tone knob for easier dialing in of unity gain on the volume and an extra range on the low gain setting so you can get more of an overdrive tone out of it instead of that raucous distortion. Check it out, walrusaudio.com.
I like the way you sold that, Steve.
Thank you.
Also, big thanks to Sinusoid Cables. Sinusoid showed me a really awesome time, and a bunch of other people really awesome time in Sacramento for Cowerfest. Give them a big thanks for treating us that way by going and buying a cable or something. Go buy something from Sinusoid. It's not going to hurt. It's going to feel good.
Real good.
Sinusoid Cables. They make cables and smiles.
All right, this week's song is brought to us by the Antioch Band. Actually, I think they're just called Antioch, but their email says the Antioch Band. Whatever. Anyway, they're from Columbus, Ohio. They said, we were invited by a few students to Capital University in Columbus, Ohio as part of an audio recording class final project. We picked a song we wrote a year or so ago that no one had really played in the studio, tracked it live 5 times, and took the final take. Hope you guys like it. This song is called Don't Look Down. Hope you guys like it. We are almost out of songs, so if you've got a song you want to submit to the show, send us something, MP3, preferably to 60cyclehumcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Later.
Love until I see you again. Oh, knew me so well like the back of her hand.